Imagine being 3 times richer than Jeff Bezos. Imagine holding so much power that the US government had to invent new laws just to keep you in check. This isn't fiction. This is the story of the man who built modern capitalism, John D. Rockefeller. At his peak, his wealth was equal to 1.5% of the entire US economy, roughly $280 billion today. He wasn't born into luxury. He built it, brick by brick, deal by deal, and law by law. John Davison Rockefeller was born in 1839 in a small town called Richford, New York. His father, William Avery Rockefeller, was not exactly a role model. William was a con artist, a traveling salesman who peddled fake medicines and elixirs. He dressed well, spoke smoothly, and could charm anyone out of their money. Behind the polished smile was a man who vanished for months at a time, leaving his wife and children to fend for themselves. Growing up in this unstable world shaped young John. He learned early that appearances mattered, that money meant control, and that trust was a luxury. He was quiet, serious, and far more mature than the other children around him. When other boys played, he kept records of every penny he earned from small chores. Numbers fascinated him, because numbers meant order in a world full of chaos. When the family finally settled in Cleveland, Ohio, John's ambition found its foundation. He dropped out of high school to take a bookkeeping job for 50 cents a day. It wasn't much, but he treated it like the first step toward an empire. Every cent he saved, he tracked meticulously. He believed that saving was the seed of fortune. "I would rather earn 1% off 100 men's efforts than 100% of my own," he once said, and he meant it. By the time he turned 20, Rockefeller had saved enough to start his own business. With a small loan from his father and his own savings, he partnered with a friend to create a commodities firm. They bought and sold produce, but soon Rockefeller's eyes turned toward something far more promising: oil. It was 1859, the same year oil was discovered in Pennsylvania. The world was changing, and Rockefeller saw the future written in black gold. Cleveland was perfectly positioned near the Pennsylvania oil fields, with excellent transport links. He knew opportunity when he saw it. By 1863, Rockefeller and his partners had opened their first oil refinery. Oil was booming. Kerosene lit up homes and factories, and every barrel meant profit. But Rockefeller wasn't interested in being just another businessman. He wanted control. Within 2 years, he bought out his partner, replaced him with a skilled chemist named Samuel Andrews, and took on new investors. Among them was Henry Flagler, a man whose vision and organization matched Rockefeller's precision. Together, they built something that would soon dominate the world. In 1870, at only 31 years old, Rockefeller founded the company that would make his name immortal: Standard Oil. From day one, Standard Oil wasn't just a company, it was a machine, efficient, relentless, and hungry. Rockefeller's strategy was simple: cut costs, crush competition, and control everything. While others searched for oil, Rockefeller focused on refining it. Exploration was risky. Refining was stable. He built better refineries, invested in research, and used every byproduct possible, turning waste into profit. Even oil others considered useless, he found a way to purify and sell. Nothing went to waste. His obsession with efficiency made Standard Oil unstoppable. In 3 short months during 1872, he bought out or bankrupted 22 of his 26 rivals in Cleveland. Competitors called him ruthless. The public called him an octopus, its tentacles reaching across industries, railroads, and even into politics. But Rockefeller wasn't breaking the law, at least not yet. His deals with railroads gave him secret discounts and rebates that no one else could get. He promised massive shipments, 60 carloads of oil a day, in exchange for lower transport costs. Rivals couldn't compete. They either sold out or shut down. Standard Oil grew until it controlled 90% of America's refineries. It was more than a company, it was an empire. And Rockefeller ruled it with an iron will. Employees described him as calm, cold, and calculating. He never raised his voice, but everyone knew he was always 3 moves ahead. Yet success came with a price. The more powerful Standard Oil became, the more enemies it made. Journalists exposed its secret deals and crushing tactics. Politicians who once admired Rockefeller began to fear him. His power over the nation's economy was absolute. And when one man controls that much wealth, even governments start to worry. In 1911, after decades of investigations and lawsuits, the U.S. Supreme Court finally broke Standard Oil apart. The company was found guilty of violating antitrust laws and was divided into 34 smaller entities. To the public, it was the end of Rockefeller's empire. But to Rockefeller, it was the beginning of something even bigger. Because each of those smaller companies, Exxon, Chevron, Mobil, and others, continued to grow. As their stock values soared, Rockefeller's fortune multiplied. The government had tried to destroy him, but they had only made him richer. By then, though, the relentless drive that built his empire had started to destroy his body. Decades of pressure and paranoia had taken their toll. His hair fell out. His skin turned pale. He looked decades older than he was. Journalist Ida Tarbell described him as one of the saddest objects in the world. The man who once dominated an entire industry had become a ghost of himself. But this is where the story changes. Because Rockefeller, for all his ruthlessness, was not content to be remembered as a villain. He wanted redemption, not in words, but in deeds. In 1913, he created the Rockefeller Foundation, one of the first and largest philanthropic organizations in the world. Its mission was simple: to improve health, education, and science. With his vast wealth, Rockefeller built the University of Chicago, funded medical research, and helped create vaccines for diseases like meningitis and yellow fever. He established the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research, which would go on to revolutionize modern medicine. He didn't just donate money, he built systems, public health campaigns, schools of medicine, sanitation reforms, all funded by the Rockefeller fortune. In a sense, he re-engineered society with the same precision he had once used to engineer his empire. Some said it was guilt. Others said it was legacy, but whatever the motive, his philanthropy reshaped the modern world. The Rockefeller Foundation became more powerful than many governments, influencing policy, education, and even agriculture. It funded the Green Revolution, which transformed global food production and is credited with saving over 1 billion lives. By the time Rockefeller died in 1937, he had given away most of his wealth. From nearly $900 million in 1912, his remaining estate was worth only $26 million, a fraction of what he once owned. But his influence had become immortal. Today, the Rockefeller name still commands power. The family's combined net worth is estimated in the billions, but their true value lies in influence. The Rockefellers pioneered the concept of the family office, an institution managing investments, trusts, and intergenerational wealth. They used irrevocable trusts and life insurance strategies to preserve their fortune and avoid heavy taxes. In effect, they made their wealth untouchable even by death. Their impact didn't stop at finance. For decades, Rockefellers held political offices, senators, governors, even vice presidents. Their foundation shaped policies in health, science, and global economics. Some say their philanthropy was a tool of control, a way to steer international development in America's favor. From France's post-war recovery to modern-day health initiatives, the Rockefeller influence is still quietly at work. Critics argue that such power blurs the line between charity and control, that foundations like Rockefeller's and others today, like the Gates Foundation, wield more influence than elected governments. Supporters, however, claim that without them, much of modern science, medicine, and global health progress wouldn't exist. The truth, perhaps, lies somewhere in between. John D. Rockefeller was a paradox, a man who built his empire through ruthless ambition, yet spent his final years trying to heal the world his empire had scarred. He played by the rules, but when the rules didn't fit, he changed them. He gave away his fortune, but ensured his family's power would never fade. More than a century later, his shadow still looms large. The oil industry he created became the backbone of the modern world. The foundations he built still shape public health and science. His descendants still move quietly through the worlds of finance and politics. Rockefeller once said, If your only goal is to become rich, you'll never achieve it. For him, wealth wasn't the destination. It was the tool. The tool to build, to control, to outlast. And in that sense, he succeeded. John D. Rockefeller was not just the richest man in American history. He was the architect of modern capitalism itself. A man who built an empire from nothing, redefined philanthropy, and left behind a legacy that still shapes the world we live in today. So was he a genius visionary, or a ruthless monopolist? A savior, or a sinner? Maybe he was both. Because sometimes the people who build the world are the same ones who break it. This was the rise and legacy of John D. Rockefeller. You've been watching Pastify Hub, where history comes alive. Like, subscribe, and discover the stories that shaped our world.